How's it, everyone? Welcome back to another hybrid experiment string review right here on OpenCourt. I'm Kent, and today I'm doing a hybrid experiment of two Toroline strings. One of them is the O-Toro Tour. I really like that string currently. It's my favorite Toroline string, and I was thinking about what to pair it with, and I was browsing through the website and one caught my attention. So I decided to do a hybrid experiment of the O-Toro Tour and the O-Toro Snap. Let's check it out. So first, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Toroline company. I sent them a message telling them that I wanted to try some of these strings that they have, especially the Snap, to do this hybrid review for you guys, and they were gracious enough to send me these strings, and in fact they actually personalized it and put my name on the back of this Toroline Snap string set. So that's pretty cool, and thank you so much, Toroline. You guys are always thinking about the customers and the tennis players that use your strings. If you guys are interested in using or trying the O-Toro or the Snap or any of Toroline's strings, they're a very good up-and-coming company. Check out my link in the description below. You can get an awesome discount if you use that link and purchase these strings. Alright, so the O-Toro Tour, this is my current favorite Toroline string. You guys will know that if you have seen my full review of this, which I will also link down in the description. This is a slightly firmer yet slightly more feel-oriented version of the O-Toro original. I do like that string, it's just not quite as crisp for me. This string is a little bit on the more feel-oriented, crisper side while also being a little bit stiffer, which allows me to take huge swings from the baseline and keep the ball in play. It's not quite as crisp or pocketing as my favorite current poly, which is the Head Lynx Tour. Very few strings I've tried actually match that level of feel, so I don't blame it, but this is currently my favorite string. It's six-sided, I believe. It is a shaped string, does provide quite a bit of spin, so I wanted to pair it with something round in the crosses because that is typically the go-to string profile for poly hybrids in the cross. And I was browsing Toroline's website and I came across this Snap. So I'm not gonna do a full review of this string because I was planning to just use this as a hybrid anyway. It is a 125mm, only 1 gauge, round slick poly, and that is the perfect profile to put in a cross string because that will allow the main strings to slide and snap a little bit more. I always look for a round and very slick poly to pair with a shaped main when I do poly hybrids. If any of you have tried Toroline Snap in a full bed, please leave your comments down in the description below so we get a better idea of it. I'm not planning to do a full review of this, but this is going to be the hybrid setup I'm testing today. So I got the O-Toro Tour in the mains in my Boom Pro, and I got the O-Toro Snap in the crosses. I really like this light blue and white combination in my Boom. It matches the Racket's color tone very nicely, and I got it strung at 54 pounds because this is a slightly more open 16-19 pattern, so I wanted a little bit tighter to keep my aggressive shots in play. Although Toroline O-Toro Tour is a bit of a stiff string, so I'm sure I'm not going to have control issues. What I'm really looking for with this is enhanced spin potential, because when you use a full bed of a shaped string, the shaped cross will actually prevent the main from sliding and snapping back in a consistent and predictable manner. That can lead to drop-offs in spin as well as control. The ball will come off at slightly erratic angles sometimes. So by putting a slick poly cross, round poly into the cross, it's going to allow the mains to slide and snap back a little bit more consistently, get a little bit more spin, and hopefully also a more predictable and consistent launch angle for you aggressive baseliners. And that is the goal of this hybrid. So without further ado, let's get on the court and let's test out the Toroline hybrid of O-Toro Tour and Snap. But before that, if you guys like this content and want to see more, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button to keep the reviews coming. So since this is a hybrid review, I'm going to keep it shorter than my full reviews I usually do with pros and cons. I'm going to give my general thoughts about this setup. First, my goal with this setup was to add a bit more spin, power, and feel that I couldn't get with the full bed of O-Toro Tour. I really like the stiff and control-oriented response of the O-Toro Tour in a full bed, but I thought the string was a bit lacking when I needed to generate my own power and also when playing defense. I chose the O-Toro Snap in the cross to give a bit more pocketing due to its softer construction. In theory, the extra split second the ball rests on the strings gives me better feel for the ball, leading to better control to shape my shots. The spin and stiffness of the Tour also prevents my aggressive swings from flying past the baseline. So did this setup achieve what I wanted? The answer was a resounding yes. This hybrid did pretty much everything I set out to do with it, and I felt in total control when striking the sweet spot. All of my aggressive swings, including my return of serves, were landing well inside the baseline, and I was able to push my opponent around with my attacking shots. I thoroughly enjoyed this setup from the baseline, and I think aggressive baseliners with fast swings and heavy shots will benefit from the control and feel. If you are more of a defensive player who plays patiently and waits for opponents to make mistakes, you could still use this setup, but I would recommend stringing a bit lower to get more free power. Speaking of power, the O-Toro Snap in the cross definitely loosened up the string bed a bit since it is a bit softer than O-Toro Tour. Although I like stiff strings, one issue I have with them is the lack of power on my serves. I wish I had a more powerful flat serve, but alas at 5'5", I can't really pack a punch. Also, net clearance is a bit of an issue for me, so I'm usually in a bit of a conundrum. I want the control that stiffer polys provide for my aggressive swings, but I also want the power that softer strings provide for easier power and net clearance on my flat and slice serves. Some polys manage to give me a good balance of both, such as Headlink's Tour, but a hybrid can typically achieve this, and I think this hybrid also provided me a good balance of control on ground strokes with some free power on the serve. Although O-Toro Snap is not as soft as some other polys I like to hybrid with, such as Yonex Polytour Fire or True Pro Ghostwire, if I were to use this hybrid again, I would drop the tension by 2 pounds to 52 in just the crosses to give me a little more power without sacrificing the great control of the O-Toro Tour mains. Regardless, this setup gave me some much needed pop on my flat serves. I also really like the feel of this setup for my touch shots. This setup remains lively, and I'm able to hit drop shots that float barely over the net and die inside the service box. O-Toro Tour isn't the crispest feeling poly I've tried, and the snap in the cross didn't really enhance the feel, but it didn't detract from it either, and I never really struggled with it on my touch shots, so it was good enough. This might not be a concern for most people because I rarely see people, at least players in Hawaii, aiming for drop shots and angles at the frequency that I do. Let me know in the comments if players in your area actually incorporate touch in their games, but most advanced players who would use O-Toro are strong baseliners that like to blast balls from the baseline anyway, so touch is probably not a huge priority for them. I did really enjoy the firm feel on my volleys though. Again, it had that perfect balance of stiffness and pocketing so that I could control my volleys. The pocketing allowed me to feel the ball sitting on the racket so that I could redirect the volleys at my opponent's feet or into the gaps of the defense. The pocketing also gave me a decent amount of punch behind my volleys, and I was able to put away many high volleys and overheads no problem. But the stiffness prevented my volleys from flying past the baseline. I need that stiffness when I'm approaching the net on my approach volleys because my forward momentum can sometimes lead to erratic volleys with softer strings. One thing, which is also one of the cons I had with the full bed of O-Toro Tour, is that this hybrid had an initial break-in period that was pretty harsh. When I was warming up with it, I felt there was a big drop-off in power on off-center hits. The feel and pocketing also didn't open up until about a full set into playing. Break-in periods with stiffer polys is not uncommon, but I did not play my best tennis with this hybrid until about the third set when the strings really settled in. Once they did though, I felt like I couldn't miss. The tension remained stable for a very long time as well, and I never felt the strings would snap prematurely because the snap crosses were very slick. But I think dropping the tension in the cross and also possibly hitting against the wall for a bit would loosen them up. I think you would find it difficult to get much feel or power if you go straight into a match with this setup fresh off the stringer. So to wrap up my thoughts on this hybrid, I simply loved it. I thought the O-Toro Snap in the cross unlocked a bit more power and spin potential, which is something I sorely needed at times because I can't overpower my opponents easily. The pocketing is also quite impressive and allowed me to play my all-court deceptive style that mixes in aggressive ground strokes, volleys, and front court finesse shots well, and I could keep my opponents guessing. The main thing I'm looking for, and frankly I think this should be everyone's #1 priority when selecting a string, is how confident did this string make me feel? And the answer is extremely. I felt very confident and comfortable pulling out all of my shots in my arsenal, and I wish that it was a bit more crisp for even more accuracy on ground strokes, but the stiff control-oriented feel still let me swing away without worry. This is one of, if not the best, poly-poly hybrids I've tried, and this gave me a lot to think about going forward. So lastly, who is the Toroline O-Toro Tour and O-Toro Snap hybrid setup for? It's for players with long, fast strokes who want a good blend of power, control, spin, and feel. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say this is a do-it-all hybrid for advanced players. I say advanced players because this setup does lack comfort. If you are not an advanced player with a healthy arm and fast strokes, there is little this setup can do for you. Stick to a softer poly or multi-filament, or even better, natural gut. So now let me hear from you guys down in the comments. Have you tried this hybrid, or maybe the O-Toro Snap in a full bed? What Toroline string do you want me to review next? Be sure to leave your thoughts down below. Use the link in my description if you want to try Toroline strings at a discount, and I'll see you in the next review. Thank you for watching this review of the hybrid O-Toro Tour and O-Toro Snap right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.